just thankful that we're as representatives of our community. Please guide our work, help us to work respectfully with each other, and represent our community well. We ask that you be with those who protect us while we are here, those in the police and fire and military. Give them your protection and comfort to their families. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Item 3 is consideration of the meeting agenda. Board members, having received tonight's agenda, are there any additions, deletions, items that need clarification?
I need to remove item 10D, please,
Okay.
for more information and an additional quote.
Okay, it's been requested by the clerk, who is the sponsor of 10D, to remove 10D. Is there support?
Support. Me
Moved
or
by
D?
D is in
D,
dog.
okay.
D is in dog. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That item will be removed. Any other items to add or delete? Seeing none, is
Motion
there,
approved as amended. Support.
there's a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Moved by Zoller, support by Hermanette. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Our agenda is approved. Item 4 is public comment. This is an opportunity to address the board of any items of interest. If it is a listed agenda item, we will have public comment before that item as well. You could speak now, but we limit you to 2 minutes now. We aren't as strict when an item is before us, so that when that agenda item is listed. And then if you have afterthoughts there, or lingering thoughts, there's an extended public comment period at the close of the meeting if you want to follow up. So if any public comment at this time? See none, I will close public comment. Item 5, board members having approved tonight's agenda and reviewed its contents, does anyone have an interest in any of the listed items to disclose to the board? Seeing and hearing none. Item 6, approval of the consent agenda. There are a number of items listed there for your review and approval tonight. Any discussions, requests to remove, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Support.
Moved by Zoller, support by Bradshaw, that we approve the listed consent agenda items. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. I would just make one quick comment. Please note that included in that is this year's hometown hero, which is Adam Stauffer, who is the organizer of our, I believe we're in our 6th year of the community concerts, and I just wanted to draw your attention to that. A great individual, multi-generational family business in this town, so fitting and deserving of the award, and we will make sure we do a press release to the Sun and News and others so that he can be recognized, and he'll be part of our Independence Day celebration as well. You also have received reports from board committee officers and staff. Those are there simply for your information, which allows us to move to item 10A. This is a presentation by the Kent District Library in their community report. I know we have some familiar faces here, so please step forward, identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Christina Tazelar. I am the KDL board member representing Caledonia, along with Kentwood and Gaines Township. KDL exists to further all people, and you are part of that. The only way this works is in partnership with you. Thank you for partnering with us so that we can provide those critical library services to people who live here in Caledonia. One of the things that I love most about the library is what's offered for little kids. When my kids, who are now sadly at the eye-rolling stage of life, were younger, we did a lot of story times at the library. Starting kids early with being around books and familiarity with books, reading books to them really helps with childhood literacy, which is something that we've recently learned we have a long ways to go in the state of Michigan to improve our childhood literacy, and KDL offers a lot to get people off on the right foot and help parents work with their kids and so on. Last night I was at the Caledonia branch, and there was a little girl, maybe 2 or 3, so definitely still in the toddling around unsteadily phase. And she wasn't reading, but she was doing the little scavenger hunt with her mom, looking for the different images that were kind of hidden throughout the library. And man, when she found the picture of the bee that was on the checkout machine, she just climbed right up there. And she was so excited about this bee. And I watched her and her mom interact and then wander off in search of the next thing on the list. And I just thought, man, that was just a little sliver of delight. This girl is learning to explore the world with curiosity, and the library is a safe place for her to do that. So your partnership is part of little tiny moments like that and much bigger, more impactful moments as well. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Lance Werner, who is the Executive Director for KDL.
Awesome. Thank you for being here tonight and for your service on the board as well. Hey, Lance.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lance Werner. I'm the Executive Director of the Kent District Library, and I've been the Executive Director 15 years as of May 2nd. So it's always good to see you. I appreciate you. I have to say that Christina and Lulu are doing a fantastic job. We value them so much, and I appreciate all of you. I know the public service is kind of difficult sometimes, and I think the Caledonia is doing a bang-up job, and I really appreciate all of you. We really appreciate your partnership and your being part of the KDL family. We think it's fantastic. So good news for 2025. Digital circulation was up 17%. We had 1.9 million digital certs. That's the biggest number in the state by far. Our KDL Talking Braille and Book collection, Talking Book and Braille services received a national award, National Library Service for the Blind and Disabled for the second time. We won that award for the first time in 2015, and Shelley Ruzine is in charge of that department and does just a fantastic job. And we provide those services. We're the regional provider over a 4-county area, and so we really appreciate the opportunity to help people connect with the service. And like I said, so proud of Shelley and so proud of the service. We had over 20,000 Summer Wonder completers in 2025. And that's important, you know, in the summertime, some of the kids have third grade reading slide. They sort of get summeritis and go outside a lot, which is awesome. But, you know, Michigan's third grade reading scores aren't terrific. And so we encourage everybody to come on into the library and with a family and sort of develop that sort of familial culture around literacy and learning, and reading is fun. And so we're happy to connect parents and kids with stuff that you can read together and have a good time. Whatever their interest is, we're committed to meeting it. And then finally, another thing that happens in the county here is food insecurity in the summer among children. As you probably have heard me talk about before, we have a partnership with Feeding America, and last summer we gave out 29,000 meals, and we anticipate we will eclipse that number by quite a bit this summer. And so it's important. We know that kids that are hungry aren't really well positioned to connect with the services in the library. We know kids with full stomachs are better positioned to get the benefit from the services the library offers. But again, I have to say that it's just great to be here for 15 years and to see all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's been a wild ride, but it's been a lot of fun. And I do appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you, and God bless you. And with that, I will introduce the star of the show, Lulu Brown, who is our regional manager, and she'll come up here and she's going to dazzle you. She dazzles everywhere she goes. She dazzles everybody. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Lance. Hey, Lulu.
Hi, board.
Welcome.
Lulu Brown, Regional Manager 1 for the Caledonia and Cascade branches. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that were really successful last year. But before I hop into our stats, I want to say thank you. I know there's been a lot of work done on the library recently. We're coming up on a couple of years, and after going through the renovation at the Cascade Library, we spent millions of dollars just to maintain what we weren't able to take care of before. So thank you for the work on the doors. Thank you for working on the windows, the carpet. I don't want to go back to do another renovation, so thank you. Beyond that, the things that are happening in our branch. So last year we saw about 108,000 people walk into our doors. We circulated about 260,000 materials. So we've got 10 employees behind the scenes working hard to get books back on the shelf. This is a community that loves the library. They love to read. We're seeing huge growth with all of our reading challenges, as well as Gather to Grow, which is that meal program that we do in the summer. So last year's numbers, I think we had about 1,600 people, which was way more than the 810 we had our first year. So we are expecting to see a lot more people show up. That is Monday through Friday. We started the very first week of June, and it runs all the way through the end of August. We want to make sure that no kid goes hungry in the summer. So if you're coming to the library, you can learn and you can have a quick meal. They're also shelf stable. So we did see some families who were struggling a lot last year, who they were sharing it with our librarians. I don't know where my meals are going to come from this week. So we said, here, take these. These are free. You've got shelf stable meals for the whole week. Beyond that, we're seeing a lot more questions as people are just trying to navigate how to improve their own lives. Of course, we have the public PCs. We offer free printing, 50 pages a week. We're navigating a couple things, but you can print for your phone right now. And of course, the program growth. So with some of the parking things that we've been navigating, we've tried to be really intentional last year with how we structure our programs to make sure that everybody could actually come to the library and not experience some of the yo-yo parking issues. So we intentionally looked at what we were offering. We tried to be a little bit more strategic with paying attention to whatever's happening in the community green, what Journey Church might be navigating as well. And even though we're offering sometimes less actual events, we're seeing more people showing up. So a good example of that is this year for our adult programs. Last year we had about 400 people show up. We're already at 388 this year alone. So people are really responding to what we're offering. The other thing was spring break staycation that we also did this year. So we were hearing from families that they didn't have a place to go or they just couldn't afford to go anywhere. The Friends of the Library kicked in a lot of support to bring programs like Alligator Sanctuary, Retro Arcade, just to allow fun for families who didn't have plans. And we saw about, I think, 1,100 people show up just that week alone for the events that we were throwing. So I want to say thank you. We try to be really dynamic in how we plan what we're offering in the library. We want to make sure that everybody feels like they can come to get access to information, to ideas and excitement. And we've just been having a really good time. So
Awesome.
with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Thanks, Lulu. Any questions? Any questions from the, here you have a chance, if you have any questions about the library or KDL, we'll allow them from the floor, because I doubt we'll get raucous, at least on this item. So just a few comments. One, always thank you for coming and updating us. Our community's made a big investment. I guess I'll start in reverse order. The taxpayers, those here and those surrounding in Caledonia, built us a great building, and you put a great staff in it. But those wouldn't be possible without taxpayers saying yes to pay for those things. So one, thank you to our citizens. As far as childhood literacy, I think it's been said that kids learn to read and then they read to learn. And so if they don't get that first part done, they're really hard to catch up. And we know in Michigan that if you don't learn to read, you're either gonna end up homeless or in jail. It's a pretty sad outcome for those who don't hit those numbers. And so thankfully you're a partner in that. And then I guess I think leaders are readers, so thank you, but also leaders listen, and you do that well. I think I've seen you be agile during COVID. I've seen, in your programming, evolving everything from bikes to seeds to meals. It's pretty awesome that it's not just about books anymore, and so appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
So, thanks. All right. And with that, you can probably go enjoy the rest of a summer evening unless you want a civics lesson as well. You're welcome to stay here, yep. So we don't hold it against you when your item's done. So we'll move it, speaking of getting things done, we'll keep our agenda moving along. Item 10B, this is a motion to approve a proposed revision to the personnel manual to reflect an update to the township's HSA contribution structure from biweekly payments to semi-annual, 2 payments effective October of this year, and add references to the township-sponsored vision plan as well. Ms. Manager?
Yes, so a few months ago, the board approved going from one lump sum at the beginning of our healthcare contract to moving towards contributions that are equally distributed throughout the pay periods instead. We were having some issues with, we would front load the HSA and then we'd have employees leave. We have no ability to kind of do anything about that. Once it's gone, it's gone. So the board approved this. I think it was in the right direction, and we did have some feedback from staff after it was approved that they wanted to see more of a lump sum and a two payments instead of bi-weekly with their payments. So instead of every 2 weeks with their paycheck getting a contribution, they asked that we bring it to the board to see if we could do 2 payments, one at the beginning and one in the middle of the year instead. So that is the request to talk about and decide if you would like to do that or if you want to keep it how it is.
All right, so, and remind me how much we contribute into the HSA annually.
It's about 3,100. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's about 3,100, and it covers the deductible.
Yep.
Request was so that, you know, a lot of people use that to cover their medical costs up front, and then once their deductible is met, it's completely covered after that. It's a very generous thing that the township does for the employees.
All right, so again, just for those gathered, just to, so you can follow along, township provides benefits to our employees. We have a high deductible healthcare plan. And so in order to help employees who have to, you know, pay that first in, we also put an equivalent amount into a healthcare savings account. However, if they leave, when that big lump sum payment's paid, they take that with them, and we kind of feel like you're taking the money and running. So we moved to doing that on a paycheck-wide basis, so you'd get it broken up into your 26 pay periods. And those who depend upon it utilize our saying, now I'm having to find that money. So that is the issue before us. And board members, your thoughts and which direction would you like to go on this?
Well, we already went through this and voted on it, and my understanding is it's really one individual that has come and complained. But regardless, you know, we don't put advance for 401k. You know, I've talked to a number of people who have employers do the HSA, and they get it either at the end of the month or they get it every other paycheck. So I thought we were, well.
It's been resolved, discussed and resolved?
It was resolved, so I'm gonna make a motion to keep it at the same.
I would like to say a couple things. Because our department's the one who processes this, excuse me. And we had not changed it to every paycheck because our assistant clerk talked about some of the disadvantages of doing that. And it wasn't just one person that complained, it was a large number of people that had a problem with it. And one of those people happened to be our fire chief for his particular side of the building. And I can tell you from the person who does the work, which is my assistant clerk, it is much easier for her to do it as she's listed out all of these different advantages. It's much easier for her to do it in 2 different payments rather than doing it every paycheck.
My concern is one of our individuals in the other building, right after we loaded it, resigned. And we lost all that money. And I do understand maybe it's some more work, which, you know, but I'd be willing to do monthly, you know, but, you know, companies don't do this.
Okay, so the issue's been presented. Is there any public comment? Just curious. If you want to weigh in, it's your money as well.
This isn't an
See you, Don.
entitlement, it's a
No, I
benefit.
just wanted, we always say we enjoy it, we welcome public comments, so wanted to cover that. So now public comments closed, board may continue, so.
So trustee Zoller, I just want to make sure, so this is a little bit, it's not as safe with the money because we're praying ahead of time, is that what you were saying?
Correct. That's
So-
what,
Anytime, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You forward fund it.
that's your money,
Yeah.
you know,
Someone
and
could leave.
that's why we did this effective this October. We voted on this, and now, I'd be willing to go monthly, but you know, any more than that, it's not an entitlement, it's a benefit.
Yeah.
How's, from a implementation standpoint, how is monthly?
More work.
It'd be less work than a bi-weekly, right?
By definition, yep.
By definition,
no.
yeah.
But maybe not, because
Well, we have 26 pay
one
periods.
paycheck, you gotta do it one way, and the next way you gotta switch it back, so every time's different.
Mhm,
True.
yeah.
Yep.
And you'll see, there's a lot of advantages of doing it this way, and there were 2 disadvantages.
There's $3,100 in disadvantage.
So,
This has happened
Or-
one time.
so the,
Well,
from an administration standpoint, so we understand the financial risk and benefit to employees. From an administration standpoint, hearing trustee Bradshaw, you can set it and forget it if it's per paycheck or once a year, right? I mean, makes it pretty simple. Anything else is more work in my elementary understanding of how math works and paychecks work, that we
Yeah, one other thing that I would like to point out too is the second advantage that's in, here in my memo. Semi-annual processing is in alignment with neighboring jurisdictions. We did research on it, and this is what our neighbors do for their people.
Okay. More board discussion? We do have a motion on the floor. Is there support of the motion to discuss that as the direction of the board? And the motion was to keep it as
To
is? or
keep
go
it
more
as
for
is.
Okay.
That we voted on last year.
Can we, I guess I'm trying to, I understand $3,000 is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. I go to the dentist, I pay $300. It's not unusual to have to forward fund your,
Right.
some healthcare and then receive reimbursement. So you go, you write the check or run the card, and then insurance pays you back. So we do have some float burden when we receive benefits from our employers. And this would be one of those. So they're going to receive it. So it's not the hardship that they're not going to receive it. It's just a matter of when they get it. So.
Jody,
Board members?
go ahead, Tim.
I don't really have strong opinions either way. I mean, currently I work for a different government organization, and they give us all of it up front at the beginning of the year. But a few years ago, I was in the private sector, and I got some every paycheck. So you just have to understand and plan as an employee for what's coming.
Johnny, was there any other differences you saw when you looked at the other townships around here? Is it they just are doing it semi-annually?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm, from what I understand, yes.
I guess I would also just add that I agree, $3,100 isn't $5, it's $3,100, but it's also not, hundreds of thousands or, a lot. It's happened, it sounds like one time so far. So I don't feel like it's out of hand at this point. It's one circumstance, but, if 4 or 5 happened in this coming year, then I would probably feel differently.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve the revision of the personnel manual to reflect the update the township's HSA contribution structure from equal biweekly payments to semi-annual payments, effective October.
Support.
To move support that we move to semi-annual payments rather than a lump sum payment. And rather than biweekly, which is the current practice. We do have the recommendation and therefore the motion listed on your memo. There has been supported discussion on the motion that's before us. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
No, and the motion carries. All right. We argue over tires and things like that, so just know that, there is oversight over the spending of your tax dollars. All right, item 10C, a resolution to approve final revised site condo plan for the Cherry Valley Business Park, site condominium at 6489 and 6463 Cherry Meadow Drive for Goodwill Greater Grand Rapids. We do have a memo from the planner. We are joined by the Planning Commission. Any things of note on this?
Just that it's the Goodwill site, and that's really all I've got.
Yeah, staff is recommending approval of the final site condominium plan, subject to the terms and conditions set forth in the resolution. Resolution containing those conditions, as coming to us from the Planning Commission, is before you as well. So legal counsel has prepared it, it's recommended by our planner that we adopt it. So I make a motion that we,
One moment, Brian. Sorry, there was one thing the planner wanted me to bring up today before you make your motion.
okay,
Her and Todd did review this, 2 things. This was, 2 sites they're combining, and the second one was that they did ask for, item, I think, 3E to be removed with optional sidewalks. It reads, the proposed elimination of the sidewalk connection between the development of Clover Court planning commission wants that, sidewalk to be completed, they don't want the alternate, so that they are asking for, 3E to be stricken and it approved without it.
Okay, so if you move to page 5, item E, it says optional, it says sidewalks. The proposed elimination of the sidewalk connecting the development to Clover Court is approved, so the planning, as written, we'd approve not including it, subject to the applicant revising the plan to include pedestrian connection from Meadows at Jaceville to the development through Unit A. And they want us to remove that flexibility or that alternative?
Yes, yes.
And so if we remove that, does it revert back to the original connection? Because I do think
Yes.
connectivity is important.
It
And where is
reverts-
that contained?
It's just not included in here, but then they would have to, connect it to Clover Court, which are the 3 condos. They don't have, it doesn't have a drive-through to connect it, but it would link the sidewalk through. The other proposed route that the legal team put in there, which shouldn't have been put in there, would be going north to another set of condos, which they believe that the condo owners could put in themselves. So they prefer the route of connecting it like in past where the, route,
All right,
the
you say
cul-de-sac.
they want us to remove it. Who's they? And,
The engineer and the planner. I can show you. Let me
okay,
open
That's
this
not-
up.
the planning commission. I just think that's,
I-
and then I want, if you can show where the connection will be.
Okay, so these are the 2,
Can you slide a little bit?
Move it
Yep.
towards you some. Yep.
There we go.
so right here are this is where the Goodwill is.
Okay,
I'm with
is this
Excel.
the applicant?
You wanna-
I'm with
okay.
Excel Engineering.
Oh, you want to
so-
speak for yourself?
You wanna speak? Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So if you could identify yourself by name so we
Uh,
can grab it in
John
minutes.
Mail with Excel Engineering. I'm
Alright.
here on behalf of Goodwill.
Thank you.
So currently, yeah, the sidewalk, it goes along this cul-de-sac and we tie into the existing sidewalk right here. And that kind of connects to these buildings here.
Okay.
I think there was talk about connecting it further to the north, but there really isn't any sidewalk in the Jasonville
Right.
to the north, so, you know, I think in some of our conversations, we were like, well, if that's a connection that Jasonville wants, I mean, there's room on their property to do it. Doesn't seem like it makes sense to go through the Goodwill property to make that connection, but that was kind of some of our original discussions, regarding that, so.
Okay. So you're in agreement with the recommendation of the planner and the engineer,
Correct.
but that suggestion hasn't been considered by the planning commission. I don't want to send you back, but at the same time, to me, that would be
I think we have to.
good process. Well, we can make changes.
Well, we usually send it back to them, but, you know, we can make changes.
In my opinion, this is a pretty minor change that I think can be handled at the board level.
Yeah,
So you're gonna have sidewalk through into the Jasonville condos on Clover, correct?
Correct.
You're just not extending it through the rest of their property.
We're not going to the north to the other 2 buildings that are 200 to 300 feet north. So I think as part of the Goodwill, we will be connecting to the MDOT sidewalk and it will obviously connect to the south and to the rest of the Cherry Meadow development.
So how do we do the verbiage then, Tim?
well, we can just
Is there's,
strike item E.
but it's still, you still have to have sidewalks and,
Well, it's shown in the plan, right? So when we approve
is
the plan, it will be as shown in the plan that is in our packet and is here.
That's correct.
Okay.
I do wonder, so the language for item E on page 5.
Yep.
The proposed elimination of the sidewalk connection from the development
It's
to Clover Court is approved. So yeah, that needs to be struck because we do want that connection to happen, not be eliminated. So yeah, I think we're fine, just strike all of it, the plan shows the connection to everyone's point. And sidewalks is just taken out, you build what's on the plan.
Is there a specific reference on the plan? I know we've had multiple plans, not just on this, I'm not saying on this, but if we can make a specific reference to as indicated on plan, dated, is there a date on this plan?
4/6/28,
There is.
26, sorry.
Can you point it out to me?
It's in the revision
Down on
block.
the bottom.
All right,
Super small.
all right. All right, for purpose of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution striking item 10E, and with the condition that we approve the resolution and the plan dated 4/6/28.
26, sorry.
4/6/26, sorry, yeah.
One other item, I guess I don't want to
Just
conflict.
about to get approved.
I know,
so.
I know.
So,
I don't want to complicate things too
Yep,
much,
yep.
but in the resolution, it talks about the cul-de-sac and some of this work being done prior to getting a building permit for 7A. Goodwill is planning to construct their building and this at the same time. You know,
can you point out in where that is? Do you have the resolution with you as well?
I do have a copy of it, yes.
And Lois, do you know how this is typically handled? I know we have the benefit
So
of
on
you here.
page 4I, 3I,
3I.
Three.
Whenever something is approved through the planning commission and then you guys approve it and we get a building permit in, we always reach out to all of the departments, Lene, Todd, everybody to make sure, that whatever needed to be accomplished prior to issuing the building permit has been accomplished. So we require all of the departments to sign off. So that would be something we check on before allowing any,
Okay.
building permits to be issued.
So you just make sure what we approved is accomplished.
Yes.
Okay, so back to where the pre-construction of the sidewalk is contained where? Because I agree it can happen,
Sidewalk would be,
well,
during
it's
the
cul-de-sac,
cul-de-sac, we would typically require that to be built before we give an early start. And I'd like to stay with our current standards.
cul-de-sac
And
turnout.
I don't want to, John, I don't want you to think that we're going to allow a building permit without the infrastructure and the cul-de-sac being built,
Is it,
which is typical. We have our infrastructure. Now, you can have your base of your road, but you have to have that done before early start.
Okay, and, you know, if that's something that we can work through, I didn't want to like have the contractor just have to build that, can't do anything on their site.
They can do site prop, but no building permits, and then you're gonna have to do your sidewalk at the end of your final grade, your final asphalt, but.
Correct. Okay.
Which I think is fair.
Trustee Zoller, do you think maybe the intent was certificate of occupancy rather than building
I was
permit?
just going there, I mean,
We
That's
don't
what I
offer
would prefer,
building
but-
permits until they have their infrastructure, such as the road and, think about, the current, like, the Dutton Preserve.
this is interesting, given the conversation we're going to be having, I mean, it's very similar
So,
to what we might be discussing for Burstone.
Yeah.
so we require them to have at the very least the base and all their infrastructure in before there's no early building permits. And that's been our current, it's been our process, so I don't want, Goodwill and Excel to think that they're gonna be able to start building a building without the road being in. The sidewalks have to be in before occupancy.
I'll be honest, we already made one change. We typically are a rubber stamp for the planning commission. They do the heavy lifting and the hard looks. And so I'm not comfortable
giving.
making that change.
Okay.
If you want to go back to them and they send it to us, I make them do all the thinking and balancing of, pros and cons. So I'm not, it may be a reasonable request, but I think you're making it at the wrong point in the process. So
Okay.
with recognition, but apologies, I can't support. I want to respect the work of the planning commission. If it was desired, should have been sought, and if it was desired and sought and included, then I would include it, but I'm not going to override the planning commission other than, so to repeat my motion, thank you for the additional consideration item. It's to approve the resolution, striking item E, which would be, what is it?
3E, page
3E,
5.
thank you, Madam Clerk. And an approval of the site plan, sidewalk, plan and sidewalk as shown, 4/6 of 26. So that is moved by Harrison, supported by Zoller on the resolution. Any discussion? Mr. Hermanette?
Yes.
Mr. Bradshaw?
Yes.
Harrison votes yes. Ms. Henry?
Yes,
And Mr. Zoller?
Yes.
Thank you. So you're approved, thank you. Same thing, enjoy the summer evening, or stick around and be entertained. So, that is item 10C. 10D has been stricken. Item 10E is an appeal, consideration of appeal for land division of 7654 Burstone. We do have a memorandum, so I don't know if you want to introduce the item. I know we have Lois here who has prepared the item. Do you want to speak to it? Should the applicant speak first? I can go in either order.
However you want to do it.
Trying to remember, I believe it's always good to have the applicant speak first. So if you want to approach and give us your perspective on where we're at on this, and then we can have staff give some. Yep. Yep. Yep, if you can come to the podium, identify yourself by name and where you reside, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm Jason Titus. I live on Burstone. Been there since COVID. We were actually building our house there when we had the state shutdown. We were setting our trusses, so that was a fun project. So, well, anyways, when we bought the property there, they had it listed as Lot A and Lot B. We ended up buying Lot C, which was both parcels. So when we did that, we ended up having a transformer put on the front property there because we knew down the road we were going to be building again. Well, when we went to go possibly build again, we found out now they did an amendment to the road saying the road's not wide enough, it's not wide enough for fire trucks and stuff like that. So now we're at the point now where we bought some land and all of a sudden we can't build on it. The only thing we can build would be a pole barn in front. So we had a fire truck down our driveway. My mistake, I had a fire, it was too big. So I have pictures of that in the manila folder, kind of showing parcel A, parcel B, and parcel C. Before we even closed on the property, on the purchase agreement, I wrote we get our land division, and the seller forgot to sign that. So I had to go back to the township to get that approved, so that would be on our deed. So, and all of this, just want to be able to build, on the property, and never thought in a million years you could have something like that happen where you have road frontage, everything, and all of a sudden, sorry, we changed things and we can't build. We want to be our primary house for our kids and stay in the same association. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions at this time for the applicant? Okay. I do know that driveway requirements, street requirements have evolved over the years. And that we have grandfathered approved splits at times as far as lot sizes and so on. And for this is the first time, I believe, we've been asked to look at approving a split with the non-standard current requirements for driveway or private streets. It's the first time with the current requirements we're being asked to consider this issue, I believe.
Well, I looked at, you know, some of your listing things, and it said subject to approval of split in the township when they had it listed, which obviously they never tried to split it, or you would have found that out when you bought it.
They changed it after we bought it, everything.
Well, you should have done the split then when you bought it.
When I did it, I actually had Kent County come out there to do the well and septic inspection and everything. They said we had to add in different parcel numbers. And when we got it with the bank, they didn't want them on different parcel numbers. So I totally agree. But in a million years, who would ever would have thought they would change something like this and say, hey, your road's not wide enough. And,
For the amount of houses, it's a non-conforming road that
No,
are
I
currently
agree.
there.
no, I agree. My house never even should have been built there.
Well, it was the original parcel, if I'm not mistaken, that was in the plat. But,
Was it?
you know, yeah. So, Lois, would you give us some comments, please?
You want me up there?
Yeah, yep.
Yes.
You could
Okay.
let-
You don't have to sit, you can, but
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, actually, yeah, have a seat and we'll call you back up if we have
Thank
further
you.
questions.
Okay. Couple items that I just want to point out before I give the background. Mr. Titus did submit a survey with his packet that he presented to you, that he was given by the previous owners, that showed a parcel A and a parcel B, which is his parcel, both of them together. Those parcels had never been split to start with.
So it's conceptual.
He didn't buy two separate parcels, he bought one parcel. The owners prior to Mr. Titus were exploring splitting their parcel. So his property, which is like 5.5, I think, and the other property to the east of him, 7718 Burstone, that's about 5 acres or so as well. That was all one property owned by the Fredericksons. They were exploring splitting. They were exploring splitting into 2, into 4, like that. They ended up, and they were asking me questions, you know, as people do before things happen. And what they ended up, and they would send me parcels. Would this work for lot area and width and the things that were required at that time? And so I saw that survey with the parcel A and parcel B, but the fact is, that division never happened. It was never two parcels, parcel A and B. It was a larger 7718 before Mr. Titus and Mr. Chattel bought those parcels. It was one parcel owned by the Fredericksons. They split it in half, north to south. Mr. Chattel bought the one on the right side, 7718. Mr. Titus bought one parcel. So it was not two that we're now saying you can't have two. It never was two. Okay? So the Fredericksons had asked information about it. At the time, I gave them the information that was accurate at the time. And at the time, even non-conforming roads, splits were permitted. There was not the standard that we have now, and there was not a practice of private roads or shared driveways being reviewed as they are now. As Brian said earlier, that was something how the zoning ordinance evolved over time. So we have so many older shared driveways that had 5 parcels on them. That wasn't permitted to start with, but then the interpretation was, well, it has to become a road when the 5th house is built on it, which, as you can imagine, leads to headaches down the road that we've been dealing with. Not only that, with the emergency vehicles, part of the amendment that happened for the zoning ordinance for the road section, section 3.29, was to make a graduated level of requirements for road depending on how many houses it will serve or how many parcels it'll serve. So that was created because of the difficulty of the rescue services getting down these shared driveways and these private roads that were not up to, certainly not up to Kent County road standards. And in the past, that's all it was. So the township was not in a regular practice of reviewing sizes of roads when a land split was proposed or a new house was proposed on an empty parcel. Once that amendment happened at the end of 2019, it became a regular practice to review shared driveways, reviewed private roads whenever a land split application came in, or whenever a new building permit for a house came in on a private road or a private shared driveway. So that'll happen after he bought the parcel. Now, what owners tell him, oh, that's, you know, I've always seen preliminarily approved, okay? So there was never final proof because there was never an application to ask for that division, okay? So, I know there's more to tell, but
That's a good,
So
That
I
helps
can
us
help
a
you,
lot.
you know, as in part of public safety and what you're talking about with our fire department. It's not just the one truck going down there. If there's a fire and we need to run tankers, we need to be quick and
Yes.
turn and burn,
Yep.
and you can't in this narrow area.
Right.
And that's why we've corrected the errors of the past
Yes.
for the benefit to help all these neighbors in a non-conforming
Yeah.
area.
Right, right. But the township decided to do it at a graduated level
Correct.
to make it more attainable and not so overwhelming for residents. So if it's a house that serves between 3 and 8, there's certain regulations.
Yep.
Between 9 and 15, I believe, there's, you know, more regulations, wider road. They all require the same 80 diameter cul-de-sac. And then once you're over 15, then you're at the size of Kent County Road Commission. So that was in an effort to, let's get things, you know, better.
Yep.
So, unfortunate timing for Mr. Titus.
Yep.
So the questions were asked prior to the amendment. He reached out in 2024 asking about splitting. I informed him of the amendment and that there would be road improvements necessary. Same with Mr. Chattel, who lives next to him. And then we got the application in April of this year.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lois.
So,
I'm there if you need more.
so this is a private road, and we have private road requirements. Interesting enough, the owners of the road, being the combined property owners serviced by it, considered whether they wanted to expand the road, which would enable not just Mr. Titus, but all of the owners to be able to split properties under the ordinance. So one remedy was for them to expand their road. That was considered and decided against, for whatever reason, costs or community character, like I like our quiet little road, but for whatever reason, the owners of the road had reviewed it, the one solution being simply expand the road, and they decided against that. So to some extent, I defer to the owners of the road, that they understand the consequences of not doing that on their neighbor, but also on those properties that could also benefit from potential splits. And so their decision not to expand the road has consequence and benefit. And I guess I defer to that there is a remedy available if the majority of the owners decide to expand the road. And so or frankly, if one owner decides, gets permission to expand the road, but they may still say, no thanks, I like my sleepy little road, and we knew it was going to be limited. Big lots on a limited road. So I believe that we acted in good faith towards public safety. We've allowed the expansion of the road, so if they change their mind, we haven't restricted the ability of neighbors to, or the property owners collectively to make change, but I'm not inclined to give a one-off. And we've have correspondence saying if you're going to do that, we want to know that everyone can do it. And so we will, if we do it without expanding the road, we're going to aggravate the public safety, which I think isn't a preference, it's a principle that we probably should hold to. So is there public comment? I don't know if anyone has anything to add, but that would be my perspective on it.
Both did a good job. I can't say much more. My
Sure, if
name's
you could
Rex-
give your name and your address so we know.
Rex Adrigus, 7800 Burstone.
Yep.
Current president of the HOA. We spent probably 5 years hashing this road thing around, and many of us would like to widen it. I could get 2 splits off my 10, and it was about $150,000, which was about the cost to replace a road extra, besides moving telephone poles, some utilities, you know, sprinklers, cutting driveways back, so probably 200,000 more. Well, there's only about 5 of us that could split realistically. And the others, why would they wanna kick in money? You know, we offered to think Jason them, if they wanna pay for it, go ahead, you know. It's a lot of money, so they didn't wanna do that. So here we are, you know, I'd love to split too, but, I gave that up when we all voted. 10 of the 13 residents voted to keep it the way it is, 1 abstained. So we just left it as is, and we, kinda like it the way it is. Don't blame Jason for trying what he's doing, you know, so. That's
Okay,
kinda where
thank you,
we're
sir.
at.
Any additional public comment?
Make a motion to deny.
Support.
Moves forward that we deny the appeal. Let me read the, is there, all right. So rather than deny, affirm the decision of disapproval as the land division proposal does not meet all the zoning requirements. All right. There's been a motion made by Zoller, supported by Hermanette, to affirm the decision to disapprove the requested land division proposal as it does not meet the zoning requirements. With that as an understanding of the motion, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, and the matter is resolved. Thank you. All right. And to all of you, again, you can enjoy the summer evening, or you can stick around if you have more to say on the matter. We're going to continue our business. Item 10F, these are review of ethics policies. The township does have a code of ethics, which we have adopted, and to be honest, they are good guiding principles, but I would say we've had a number of issues raised and brought to the attention of myself, and so to resolve them under the ethics policy, it requires bringing them to the board. Having said that, I'll say both on the front end, what actually triggers, if I said, you know, I think Tim was really rude at the last meeting, which Tim's a great guy because he's never rude, but if I said, I think Tim, that's just me saying that. So is that a complaint? Is that a formal complaint? Is that just an observation? It's not clear what triggers bringing it to you. So in the past, someone would say, I don't think it's right that this person did this. Is that a complaint? Is that an observation? Is that, and so, and then more recently, we've had formal complaints lodged and then removed. And it doesn't, it's not clear on what happens once the complaint has been made. And then the subject of at least that formal complaint, where it was very clear that I'm making a formal complaint, and then they changed their mind. The individual said, well, their formal complaint is a matter of public record, and I'm not comfortable with that because of my reputation, and I want that to come before you. So, tonight I bring before you 3 issues that have been brought to my attention under varying degrees of formality, because I have also been, some have said, I brought it to Brian's attention and he did nothing on issues. And I thought, well, people bring something to my attention but don't classify it as a formal complaint, I'm not sure I'm supposed to do something, but it's not clear that I'm not supposed to do anything. So, because first observation, we could certainly sharpen up the ethics policy and process to make it, if you want the board to consider it, it should be put on a form and your signature on it, and here's where, and even cite where you think it's a violation. That's not the case, so I'm left with uncomfortable discretion of what is to be brought to the board. So that's setting of the table. There are 3 items. Any question on the process in the policy itself before we address the items, simply because I'm not comfortable doing nothing, because then, and it doesn't even say it's up to me. It's just that people brought them to my attention, so that I'm put in that. Because it says any board member, if they brought it to Greg's attention, he'd be in the same uncertain position. So that is the issue. So first we have our policy, which we can review and discuss. And if we want to process these issues that have arisen, we can do them under our understanding of the current policy. And I've sent you an email trying to explain the policy. And finally, I did ask artificial intelligence to lend its expertise, and so we have some guidance of the mega universe of a data center located elsewhere, thank goodness, of this issue as well. So,
I have a que-
on the policy itself, Mr. Hermanette.
Well, I just want to make sure, like, you said a couple things, and one, that we should start with the very easiest things and simplify it. If you say there's, who do people go to, the personnel committee, we have, correct?
We do, though we'd have to go back and make sure that that is a formally, is that a functional body, or have we formally adopted? I think it may just be a practice of ours to have a ad hoc committee of the officers. So I'm not even sure that we have a, to your question, I'm not certain on the formality of the personnel committee. We do have a function personnel committee, which may be ad hoc, which means we just pull the treasurer and clerk together and bring stuff to you, because ultimately only you can make decisions. So it has not been a consequence of their formality. How's that?
I have a question on that. Didn't we just change that policy for personnel?
Change what policy?
We did it for utilities so that
I thought we did it for personnel and utilities, but
I think we
maybe
did it just for utilities.
I don't think we did
Okay.
officially.
Because Joni said, what do I know about utilities? And we got this guy, and so I think we changed it for utilities.
We just changed that.
Yeah, I
Yes.
believe so, yeah.
You know, and we never officially appointed those things are kind of what the supervisor decides.
So to that, we have an ad hoc personnel committee, which traditionally and almost exclusively has been the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor as an advisory to the board to, not a decision-making body to bring stuff to you. So at least,
And basically, that's only been literal personnel issues, in the hiring and
Yep.
before we had
it's not even an interview committee. it's
manager,
just-
yeah.
It's just, so to,
And to add to this, like when it comes from an employee, there is a formal structure, like an employee goes to me, I write the complaint, but when it comes to the board, that's kind of more of the question here. What happens when the formal complaints, what qualifies, and what is the process that you want the board to take when those are submitted?
I think if there's, the first thing is if there's a complaint, the supervisor should maybe do the quick check into, and determine if there's even a legitimate issue. With giving the board, hey, this has been brought up, I'm doing some research. I don't think it should be put on the manager.
well, if it's against a board member, remember this could be against a member of the planning commission, could be against a member of the staff, a member of the fire department. So this is a broad policy. So in its most recent practice, when it was a board member, Allison said, I don't want to be the objective person because it's my boss. I'm investigating my boss.
I think that's correct.
Now, you can put it to me singularly, but then you're like, or should it be the body, that,
Well, I think you should be informed and you do the initial and disclose it to the board. And then we say, yes, that's good, or we want more information.
so any complaints against board members or any complaints at all come to the supervisor?
No, I think for sure with the board, we should maybe consider, I think planning and, say ZBA and things like that.
I
I'll
was
jump
gonna
ahead
say,
of you.
what about board members and appointed officials or
Yes.
something like that?
I think everything other than board should go to the manager, just for discussion. The manager is in charge of our
I'm
operations.
okay with that too.
And we're in charge of the manager. So other than the manager, I wouldn't be comfortable at Amway investigating my boss, right?
I'm okay
there's undue
with that.
influence.
And just to kind of add to this, other municipalities, when there's a complaint amongst the board to another board member, a lot of times they'll volley it to their legal team to take care of it. So nobody on the board is within the issue. So that's another option to consider.
But it's expensive.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's expensive, you're right.
But it's the most unbiased
The
way.
last time we had to process one, I think it was like $8,000, so I just did 3 of them in the last week with AI, so.
Well, yeah,
AI tells you what you wanna hear.
you know, I do think board, it's not fair to the manager
All right.
to handle that.
So we can work on the policy front end, that we can come up with a form that, gives a narrative of the concern, and if possible, identifies what provision of the ethics policy has been allegedly in question. So,
I guess I just want to add feedback that I think the ZBA and Planning Commission and other appointed boards should also be heard by the board. I think there's a separation of
Okay.
who the township manager manages. That they manage everyday employees that do the business, the day-to-day business of the township. Not to say that a ZBA case or a Planning Commission case isn't, day-to-day. They're just
Okay.
more complex, and they're appointed by this board, not by the township manager. Doesn't get to do performance reviews and things like that with those individuals and work on how they act and behave. I think it's that purview rests with us, in my opinion.
Let me offer a counter, just so we can flesh this out. One, I believe these should simply be objective and administrative, and who better than, we face elective pressure. We also have policy preferences, so if I'm like, oh, that's the planning commissioner who gave away the sidewalk at that one time.
What do you do with,
You know.
with an appointed board member on planning or say ZBA? Because then you run into the same issue with the manager, might have to recuse himself or herself.
Yeah.
That's what Tim was saying kind of didn't make sense to me.
I still am in the camp. First off, I think we haven't had a lot of these, and we've got a bunch that are coming up that
That's
we've got here. Quite honestly, you read them, it's like, I'm not sure the next step. I read it. Now, what's the next
Well,
step?
that's the back side of it. So
Well-
the front side is how do you get in the
Yep.
door, the second side is then what do you do once they're in the.
But I think that's where it shouldn't fall all on the manager and shouldn't probably fall on you. I think, but I'll say, I think if we're gonna do it with our team and not go to a lawyer on when these things come out, then it should be done by a personnel committee that we set and have. And those are the ones that decide if it should come to the board or if it shouldn't, and they're the ones that take first step.
Well, what happens if one of the personnel people are the ones that are being complained against? Then you'd
Well,
have to have an alternate.
If you have 3 people on the board, I mean, I think it's, you
You
either
just
have
have
an
the remaining
alternate.
2?
Yeah, use the 2 that are there and just say, hey, this is.
Cause they're not making a decision, they're
They're
just
deciding
bringing
if they should-
information to
yeah,
the board.
You're deciding, is this worthy of bringing to the
Right.
board, and should we acknowledge it? Or, and if one of the complaints is, I just want public record of this, okay. I mean, that to me doesn't take any more than, okay, it's public record,
But,
boom.
but then all of a sudden someone's hanging ornaments on the tree of like, I don't want you, I'm actually less comfortable with that. You can't simply say, I think Dale has been corrupted on any issue involving trails. But you don't have to do anything about it. But now it's a matter of public record. That citizens, people could salt the record. I think it has to have some, then they could say, and he had 17 complaints against him, and they all were up from Burstone,
Yeah.
because they didn't like what we did.
I think you're gonna go round and round with those type of things, though.
Either need, to take the teeth entirely out of it, this is just guidance, and be good people, and then face each other face the citizens every 4 years. That'd be one way to do it.
Right, well, and one of my comments too, when I looked through this, was, like, one of the last sentences says, violation of this directive will only form the basis for township administrative sanctions. Which are what? That doesn't explain anything. And the second thing I have is, I have received, read, and understand the ethics policy. It doesn't say I'm gonna adhere to it, it just says I've read it.
Yeah.
So.
It feels good adopting an ethics policy, right?
Right,
It sure
right.
does. And then-
Yeah.
But now,
Well, you know, there's some things, you know, when there's, you know, if somebody makes a formal complaint, it's gone to the supervisor, supervisors handled it and shared with the board that there's a complaint and they're looking into it and then bring the findings. Once the findings come here, as you're talking about the backside, you know, it's, right now is the time to decide, do we, you know, depending on the level, there's things we can do.
And
You know,
here's,
we can,
and these things should be decided judiciously and on their merits, and we're a political body who has to deal with each other month to month, and subjecting yourself to the 6 remaining people who, you know, may turn bitter against you. I mean, it should only be on the individual issue, not on the totality of whether I, you know, am always happy with you at a board meeting.
well, yeah, that's not legitimate if it's,
But
you know,
4 votes on this board and you could be censured, or, I mean, we can't remove anyone from office, but
Yeah.
we
Correct.
could,
Right.
you know, take discipline action that, you know, you're not allowed in the township office, you are, you know, you don't get township logoed wear anymore, you know, we turn in your computer, you know, and you can only log in. I don't know.
we don't have computers,
Yes,
only you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have one either, so, but, it,
I have one that doesn't work.
I
do
think-
we want someone to study the so I guess I believe this is a hard to, implement policy.
Well,
And some people haven't even signed it, for whatever that's worth.
there are,
It's not a matter of legal requirement, right? I mean, you could complain to Lansing, or I'm not, as a matter of being elected, required to sign it. Have I signed it?
You have signed it, yes.
We've got a lot of
What's wrong with
stuff
you guys? No.
We've got a lot of stuff going on now that in 20 years, we've not had any of this stuff. You know, so, and that's not saying that that's right or wrong or whatever it is, but I mean, there's some things that have just been, I don't know, very unique and that have came up. And I think we're trying to create something that, if it is that, then maybe none of us, what are we qualified to do on reading these things? They should go to a lawyer. I mean, if we're sitting here looking at it and you're deciding what kind of record we do, I don't think any of us are.
But what is the standard? Because then I'm like, I'm gonna make a complaint every month against Dale. And then I can go and run against him and say, he's had more complaints against him than any other member of the board.
That's perfectly, you know
And they've
what?
all been filed by you.
Yeah, well,
You
I mean,
know,
I'll leave
it
that
would
to
look
you to
just
tell
as
the
bad as
voters,
you,
but
I mean.
I just know that
Then maybe-
things
then-
get weaponized and abused and used to punish.
and that's
rather
one
than,
of the things
You
that,
know,
you know, I don't, because there's formal complaints made, they have to be addressed, because it is public record.
formal is the first thing, and maybe we've covered that, but go ahead.
So, you know, it has to be addressed, but it has to, you know, this petty stuff has to stop.
Mhm.
You know, and that to me is, you know, and I'm sitting here, I'm one of them that a complaint was made. And it wasn't even, the individual who made the complaint didn't even bother to go talk to a department head before they made a formal complaint. You know, and you guys can decide whatever on mine, but then there's another one on a planning commission member, same individual. This has gotta stop. So, and then I read the one on that individual, and I wanna address that tonight.
And that one was raised by me only because it was raised
It's been raised by multiple
some
people.
time ago, and I looked at it and said, it was a, escalation, but maybe I was wrong. And on the facts, I very well could have been wrong, given the facts regarding that one, but I chose not to bring it forward. I don't know.
You know,
And, yeah, but I'm like, if they are required to come to the board, here you go, board, but do we wanna do this every month? Should it be a listed agenda item, resolution of ethics? I mean, no, so how do we, but here they are before us with a policy.
I think you get into, like, out of the 3 of them that are on there, one of them possibly should be we get legal counsel to give us instructions what we're doing.
One of them, there's obviously a financial gain.
Yeah, that's what I
And,
mean. The other ones are just like,
It's very clear there's financial gain, and,
Which is one of the,
yeah.
and one of
Not
the
the
things
only.
is multiple board members have been accused of that by not recusing themselves. You know, they might have financial gain or different things on things over the years. You know, I read all three of them. Like I said, the board can do whatever with mine. But the one that's most damning is about financial gain. And I think there needs to be public censure, some removal of committee assignments, and possibly removal of being in the office during regular business hours except for official business.
we're not.
That's just me talking
Processing
tonight.
these yet, so let's focus on if there's a way to capture the global concern or observation you have in the policy, that financial gain is the trigger for what action, we can include that in a policy clarification. Because that is, it clearly is one, and we also have a conflict of interest policy, hence the disclosure inquiry at every meeting, right? Do you have an interest? Disclose it, and the board can decide whether you recuse yourself. That is the simplest code of ethics available. Every meeting, you have it in your boilerplate. Does anyone have an interest in this? Oh yeah, I go to church with him. You're good. Oh yeah, he's my business partner. You should probably leave the room then, you know? So that's the simplest code of ethics, is what we do as a standing matter of meetings. What's on the agenda? Do you have an interest in it? Tell us about it. And then
Well,
we decide whether you can
I
stick
think
around
that's a
or
good
not.
policy that we have, and we're
You
gonna
know.
keep that. I mean, that's,
Can I go back to the front end of this that we were talking about with just our policy?
Yep.
Do we know what neighboring jurisdictions have? Would it make sense for us to start there, maybe just gather what some other people have to see what they do?
it's a good idea.
Sure. Now, they may be better behaved than we are, and no one's weaponizing it to, you know,
Maybe?
So-
That's true, not saying they're better behaved, but not everybody has a process because it's not necessarily an issue in other places. But I can reach out to the manager groups and see if they have anything on their, on their books and how they handle it.
okay? Now, similar to driveways, this is our current law of the land. I assume, even though it says draft watermark on it, that at some point we've adopted this. And some of us have signed it and agreed to live by it. So this is the current law of the land, and we have issues before us. So do we want to process those?
I would like mine addressed at least tonight.
All right. We've had some general discussion. It wouldn't be appropriate to amend the policy, so based on the current policy, let's begin with Mr. Zoller, which means you need to leave the room.
Okay?
Now, was that in the policy, or is that just ChatGPT telling me that that would be a good thing for me?
Well, I think it would fall under conflict of interest.
Okay. Thank you,
Brian,
Madam
you're
Clerk.
going off this one, right?
Yes,
And I do have to state, trustee Zoller is one who hasn't signed the code of ethics.
that's all right, he appears to be subordinating himself to it.
Yes,
Okay.
it's true.
Let me find. All right, does everyone have the report before them, said Township Ethics Policy Review Appearance before Board of Review by Township Trustee?
That's, right here.
All right, let's start with that, and let me get so much paper tonight.
Is this your chat GBT start?
Yes, sir. When in doubt, yep. So, in general, you've had the chance, hopefully, to review it. Trustee Zoller, in his vocation, is a realtor. Has multiple clients, and obviously has a career's worth of expertise as well. He has disclosed, in general, his vocation to us as a board member, and in some instances, a specific financial interest when a client of his is before us. So, in this case, he appeared before the Township Board of Review, which is the township entity that determines your property value, which then determines your tax level, to represent a property owner. According to our gathering of facts, he identified himself as a realtor and did not use his title as a trustee. He also has stated that he did not receive a financial benefit or was not paid for his appearance. He has had former dealings with this individual, but was not paid to represent this individual for that. And then there's also, we checked with the assessor, who is a ex officio member of the Board of Review, to ask if, to confirm how he identified himself, to ask about whether that was unusual for a realtor to appear. It was not. And then also, did the assessor perceive undue influence? And the assessor, in her opinion, there was not. Now, we did not ask the decision makers, the Board of Review members, didn't take the investigation that far, but I would note that one member of the Board of Review is also a realtor who may know people. So we actually have one of the deciders who is a professional real estate person who makes their living in that vocation. So, for purposes of driving these forward, because we have 3 of them, based on the facts, at least of known, I'm going to read you the following, and if you agree with it, we can adopt it as our report, but it's certainly open to others. The board reviewed the concern regarding trustees' appearance before the Board of Review. Well, how about I distribute it? We can read it together. We believe any of this is factual or a wrong conclusion. The board reviewed the concern regarding trustee Zoller's appearance before the Board of Review. The board, Township Board, reviewed the concern regarding trustee Zoller's appearance before the Board of Review. The concern was raised if the Township Treasurer provided an ethics excerpt. Oh, I should have included this. So when the issue was raised, the email also included information from the Michigan Township Association, which had another code of ethics, which we have not adopted, which explicitly talks to the matter of a board member representing a third party before any entity, like the Planning Commission or Board of Review, and that would be prohibited under the provided code of ethics.
From the MTA.
From the MTA. But that has not been adopted by us, so that standard cannot be applied. And technically, legally, he hasn't signed it, so we don't even know if this code of ethics can be applied to him because he hasn't voluntarily subordinated himself to it, at least through his signature. But
Do you have what that says, or do you have that in any of the papers that you were given?
the excerpt, I summarize it, but it
Yeah,
does say a board
okay.
member shall not appear before a body representing a third party.
Right.
But bottom line, based on the written responses received, including the township assessor's confirmation, the board does not find evidence of actual conflict of interest so do we agree with that? Actual conflict of interest, improper personal gain, or misuse of office. The trustee appeared in his private capacity as a realtor, did not claim compensation for the appearance, and the assessor confirmed that his conduct was consistent with typical representation before the Board of Review. So I just would include that as a gathering of fact or statement of what has been presented. We can amend it, we can say, no, I don't like that. But And the board recognizes, however, that appearances for township bodies by elected offices can raise public perception concerns. And the board will consider prospective guidance to ensure clear disclosure, separation of roles, and continued public confidence in township proceedings. So basically, we're saying, under our current policy, which he did not sign, there does not appear to be a violation. His appearance, at least according to his own reports, was intended to be only as a realtor.
You get into some interesting stuff on this, especially when you read that the Board of the Concerns raised after township person provided the ethics excerpt that addressed the general principles in relating to personal gain. Adding that in there, to me, is just like, okay, I didn't know that. Good to know. I mean, if there's no malintent, there's nothing here that's like, I'm gonna go out and we all know Greg wasn't doing that, and even he's gone as a realtor. Now, that all being said, well, that's an interesting fact, and that's something that, thank you for letting me know, and I guarantee it'll never happen again. You know, and that's, I don't wanna hang somebody out to dry because this is something, none of us sitting here knew that was gonna say that either. Somebody looked it up and found it, but I think it's to me, it's like a 3 strikes and you're out. This is like, hey, this is what the issue was raised on, and this is the main meat of what it was raised on, is this here, from an MTA standpoint, this came across. That can't happen, period.
And my personal preference too is, again, that we go back to our policy and fine tune our policy, but I know
Yeah.
we have to talk
Yeah.
about these other things. And I guess my agreement would be with this last paragraph that says, the board recognizes, however, that the appearances before township bodies by elected officials can raise public perception concerns. We all have to realize when we take our oath of office and are elected, that we have
You're kind of a big
to
deal.
behave.
No,
Well,
you-
we have to behave, and I think
At least this guy.
even just, you know, I know that he probably didn't mean anything by showing up, but you're on the board, so come on.
But there are things too, like, you're on the board. I've broken the rule because I came to planning commissions. I didn't even know it was a rule, I shouldn't be there. But it could have been easily,
It's,
that's
I would
against
say,
the record.
yeah,
And you can't
it's
do
not a
that.
good practice.
It's not a
I
good
don't know that
practice,
it's,
shouldn't be.
anywhere with dry ink on it,
But
but you
again,
can't.
that's the kind of stuff that can happen, and I'm fine with it. It's like,
Mhm.
won't happen again.
Right.
Period. It's that
Right.
simple. I mean, that's where I think, hopefully we can dumb this down a little bit to make it, Greg, you can't say that, or Dale, you can't do that, and let's not do it anymore. Okay. Now, if I do it 3 more times, then it's a whole different rule.
Right.
So,
And that's why I feel too, like if we can fine tune the code of ethics and be like, okay, the first, you know, kind of like 3 strikes, you
Yeah.
know? The first time, did you realize?
right,
Well, yeah, I did, but I did it anyway. Okay, well, don't do it again,
right.
you know?
That, and all this reading and how it comes out, it's like, Trustee Zuller's been involved in numerous things about real estate. And we've all sat here and listened to it, whether it's Andronico or whoever it is, there's stuff going on. And I think we've never stopped that, sitting in a meeting.
I actually seek out realtors to be on planning commission and
Yeah.
board of appeals because of their specific knowledge. So if that vocation disqualifies you, but I think we're saying the opposite, that once you are elevated to a board, you know, we appoint planning commissions, we appoint ZBA members, therefore it has some extra level of influence. So,
My personal take on this is, I don't think there's anything wrong with Trustee Zoller did, and even the conversations, and I think you have one of the top realtors in the state of Michigan that also is on the
board
Board.
review,
You
has
know,
chaired our
and-
planning commission.
So we've had it kind of proofed on both sides, and there was no issue in it at all. Only thing is, this is where it got, whatever's written up was said.
And I think it's just the perception of
Right,
it, right? I mean, because,
We don't have a specific policy, we all recognize the perception, and we will emphasize that as our response.
Yep.
Is that strong enough? Is that too strong?
I think it's 100% strong enough, but Brian, if it happened 3 times, and I'll put myself in that, then all of a sudden you got somebody that's just saying, you know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I wanna do. and
Can't tell me what to do.
Can't tell me what to do,
Yeah.
then you got an issue, so.
Okay.
I agree with everything that has been said by trustee Harmon.
Okay, thank you. That's the most you'll hear Bradshaw talk.
I disagree with that, he always.
No, actually, yeah.
I'm gonna form a complaint against you.
Okay, yeah. All right. I will make a motion that we consider this matter received, and the board recognizes that no violation of township policy has occurred, but we also recognize that appearances before township bodies by elected officials can raise public perception concerns, period, end of sentence.
Yep.
And you'll capture that in minutes. So I'd make a motion that that be our response to this, as stated.
Support.
Moved by Harris, support by Bradshaw. Any further discussion? Guess any public comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right. Trustee Zoller can return. The officers will, no, I'm sorry. Thank you, Greg. Item 2 is, let me find that one. It's titled, Investigation of Formal Complaint Involving Township Treasurer's Wife, Cindy Robertson. This is a report completed by the township's manager because it did not involve a member of the board. It was against a member of the planning commission.
You find that one, Brian.
Now, I know board members have to remove themselves. Does the presence of the planning commissioner in the room create an undue influence? And should we at least request that that individual remove themselves? I don't know that we can forcefully, but
I think that planning commission member is, here as a member of the public, just like he was a member of public in his opinion. So I think it would be okay to let that individual sit. But it's up to you.
I would ask that the individual remove themselves,
Okay.
just so that there's no favoritism. If the presence of a board member has an undue influence, it's possible that, but certainly you can't try someone absence either. You know, we're in murky waters,
Weird
folks.
times, yeah.
Sir, what is your preference? To stay, all right.
I'm not elected.
Yep.
It was not in my public capacity.
Okay,
It was outside the building.
all right. To make this easy, I'm gonna ask that you leave. Would you like to leave? Okay, then we'll move on. All right, so this matter, and I will summarize it rather than read all of it. Following a recent planning commission meeting, after the meeting had adjourned, conversations were taking place outside. The alleged tone and tenor and subject matter of the conversation, we won't get into the he said, she said, triggered a member of this board to file a formal complaint against a member of the Township Planning Commission. Upon being investigated, the individual, and requests for further information from some of the individuals involved, they were not willing to provide additional information, and based on available information from the Planning Commission member involved, you have that report before you. The conclusion being the town, and then the individual making the complaint subsequently said, just take it, remove my complaint, but now we have the person who is the subject of the complaint saying, nope, I want my vindication and to be cleared of this, because someone could ask that email and let's say that scoundrel had a complaint listed against him. So if that makes sense. So we do not have a formal complaint. We have a request that the board review this so that it can be resolved and not left unresolved.
I'd like to start with, this shouldn't have even been a formal complaint based on hearsay. You know, unless somebody brings up something that they, you know, were
Witnessed.
involved in or know about, that this was a board member's spouse came home and created a narrative that wasn't substantiated with the video or other people's opinions. And then once that was kind of found out, that individual decided to remove the formal complaint, all the while, you know, trying to smear a planning commission member. You know, it's quite disappointing to see this.
Well, plus it's jumping all over the place too. I mean, it's coming down to the third paragraph is jumping into a barn.
Yeah.
I mean, that has nothing to do with.
That was already done
outside.
years ago.
I mean, there's stuff in here that this, event's going on that I'm not gonna share the text messages because I'm afraid of what's gonna happen in retribution. It's like, there's just a whole bunch of stuff in here that just seem like the whole intent is to slander
Correct.
somebody, and it's,
Well, he does call him a bully and a pig, so clearly the
Well,
intent was to
yeah.
slander.
yeah, and it comes in at the end and they don't want it, I mean, this is where you get into the thing, okay, it's red, but, I mean, is that even a fair thing to have this red, or put in, you know, cause I
He made it
I don't see this relevant, so I can't, there's nothing that can prove anything that's being typed here.
And the response from the planning commission was that if I did this outside, literally outside the building and outside of my role as a planning commissioner, at the point I stepped into the parking lot, I was a citizen, I wasn't sitting here as a planning commissioner. Now, I understand if I get pulled over for drunk driving, I was doing that as Brian Harrison, but the headline's gonna say township supervisor got pulled over for drunk driving. So you don't get to shed your entire identity, but you don't give up your rights to speak, you don't give up your, you know, and so on.
Yeah,
But we have no idea of the content of the conversation either, so there's nothing to hang a hat on.
Yeah, I would just say almost like the same thing that we talked about with trustee Zoller, that we are elected board members. So whether I'm outside the building, inside the building, down the street, like you say, I'm still an elected official. And the planning commissioners are still planning commissioners. Even if you're outside of the building and you just left a planning commission, you are still a planning commissioner. So I understand where, you know, I acted as a citizen, well, then like trustee Hermanette said, then I could go to the board, then I could go to the planning commission because I'm acting as a citizen. But we're still all board members and planning commissioners, that's all I'm
Agreed,
saying.
which makes it more likely people are going to want to have conversations about these things.
True,
So
very true.
to say then you should just simply avoid this because someone may, you know, I think I get engaged all the time and people may not always enjoy
Right.
that I don't have the same perspective as them.
I agree with everything. The only thing I'm saying is anything that we've seen here is like, there's nothing that says what was said, or I heard this bad word, nothing. It's, we didn't have a text, we don't have anything, it's just complaint.
A
But now,
template,
yeah, it's just,
If you watch the video,
I haven't watched the video, but.
the planning commission member was approached by this individual's wife and their friend, and the only type of body language, because it isn't, you don't hear the,
No audio.
is the wife shaking like her arm and hand at the planning commission member, which is opposite of what this says.
Yeah, I view it, again, I view this as more of a slanderous against,
Retaliatory strike
Yeah.
against,
especially with some of the language in there that's written.
yes, yes.
So, I don't think there's anything that can be done with this, or, I mean, I just don't read anything that,
I think it's totally unfounded based on,
yeah.
and we should, you know, maybe apologize to the planning commission member. You know, have an apology written by our manager that individual had to even go through this.
Well, I trust the planning commission, if he thinks there's anything at all that was said or done that wasn't done, I'm sure an apology's already been made on his side. If the other side, that's up to them, but there's nothing here, and it even goes and says,
I don't think the planning commission member needs to apologize. I think,
I didn't say I don't think he does. I think that if that was needed, it would have already been done by him.
yes, I would agree.
Pass these down. And based on our discussion, how about following the bullet points and starting with based upon information available? I'll just read it aloud. Based upon information available, the board finds no evidence to conclude that a violation of the township ethics policy occurred. 1. Accordingly, the board considers the complaint closed with no finding of ethics policy violation. And 3, similar to our other, just kind of boilerplate, at the same time, the board encourages all township officials, commissioners, employees, board members, and residents to engage with one another in a respectful and constructive manner, particularly when discussing matters of significant public interest and community concern. Public service and civic participation function best when disagreements are addressed with mutual respect. That's just general reminder to play nice, and it's not a finding of fact on the complainant or the subject. So I don't know your comfort level with that, but it's just a reminder to
Play nice.
Any thoughts on those being entered in as our response? Because really we're processing the,
What I struggle with is that the complaint was rescinded, number 1, and number 2, so like, I agree we have to put it to bed, but I think the complaint generally is unfounded, and I almost want to put that in the record somehow.
okay?
I agree,
Yep,
because
I do
this is
too.
public record, and that's what, even if you rescind it, it's already public record.
Yeah, I agree with that, Tim.
It was absolutely, watching a video tells you pretty much everything.
Because I think our role of addressing these things is important, but our time is also valuable, and I think we could have all been doing other things tonight.
Yeah.
This complaint doesn't need to exist.
Do you want to add that language to this and we put it in a file?
Is it in?
It was unfounded, is what he wants to.
Yeah. So the third to last bullet in what you just distributed, the board finds no evidence to conclude that a violation of the township ethics policy occurred. Maybe we change that to say the board finds the complaint to be unfounded and there is no evidence to conclude that a violation of the township ethics policy occurred.
Let me see your screen for a second.
How about this? Again, starting with just the last 3 paragraphs. Based upon the information available, the board finds this complaint unfounded and that no evidence to conclude that a violation of township ethics policy concerned. So there. Does that make sense? So we're adding 3 words, or 4. Based upon information available, the board finds this complaint unfounded and no evidence to conclude that a violation of the township ethics policy occurred, period. Accordingly, the board considers the complaint closed with no finding of ethics policy violation. And just strike
By
it.
the planning commission member.
Okay. Or let's just say his name,
That's fine.
by Mr. Curtis. So, and I'm gonna strike the last, it goes without
That's
saying,
fine.
so why say it, that things work better when we treat each other nice. So, I make a motion that the board's response to this matter be the following. Based upon the information available, the board finds this complaint unfounded and no evidence to conclude that a violation of the township ethics policy occurred. According to the board, considers this complaint closed with no finding of ethics policy violation by Mr. Curtis. Period.
Support.
Moved by Harrison, support by Hermanette, that be the board's finding regarding this matter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. All right. Are you here for action on another matter? Okay, I don't, if we have, we do have other stuff listed, like if someone's waiting for it actually, like
Thank
patiently.
you for asking, that was bothering me.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Plug your ears, kids.
Nope, this is good civics, all right. This is what, all right. Final one, let me again work through all the paper, folks. All right. The report that says, subject ethics policy review, prior lease relationship between board member, affiliated entity, and township legal counsel. Does everyone have at least that document? All right. Summarizing, and certainly people can add additional information from the report. Some time ago, admittedly, it was brought to the township supervisor's attention that possibly a member of the board, the treasurer, who was a business and building owner in the community, entered into a lease agreement with Micah Myers, which is the township's legal counsel. That would create a financial relationship between a board member and a vendor, which has been raised as being a potential violation. So,
Can we note that he is also the administrator at the time?
and he was the township administrator at the time of the lease as well. So, at the time, I did not pursue the matter. When a number of complaints were raised, including a criticism of not pursuing matters, I thought I'll leave it to the board to determine the outcome of this matter as well, rather than me exercising discretion or of the timeliness or significance of it. So it is before you now for your consideration. I will say, we inquired with the individual, the board member, we inquired with Micah Myers. It has been confirmed that a lease was signed by the board member for the township legal counsel to occupy a building owned by him or an LLC, or at least an entity of which he is a member to, and that compensation was paid for that as a matter of that lease. So I can fast forward into that one too. I believe at a minimum, disclosure should have been made. Possibly every board meeting that we approve payment to Micah Myers. By the way, they're a tenant of mine. We could say, that's okay, Dick. We know that doesn't influence you improving work that they clearly did. Or we could say, well, that's interesting. How did that happen? But that disclosure was not made, at least formally in board meetings.
Do we know whether or not, like, the particular attorneys that we work with were working out of that office? Or
They
were
all can go in
working?
there.
They can go in there, but like, were they, or were they
Nobody
housed
works
downtown?
out of there on a regular basis.
Oh, don't they? Oh, okay, I didn't know that, okay.
No,
Yeah,
like-
and I don't know whether that would make it better or worse. If like, actually there was a benefit to the township having an office in Caledonia, because they're right down the street, or like, boy, that makes no sense.
They've had an office here for years.
So then that makes sense. Then they need a place to work out of.
Yeah.
But it's just a satellite, and they have offices, and multiple offices in different places, depending on volume and things like that. You know, what we've heard over the years is, you know, people being accused of different things by this individual. And he did exactly what he's tried to say people have done. Or, you know.
But I'm not trying
Go
to
ahead.
interrupt. Did you have more to say? Because I interrupted
Well,
you and I'm sorry. I started the whole
I guess if
interruption train.
I apologize.
The individual did respond and say that, well, it wasn't disclosed, he believes it was a matter of public knowledge, both his ownership of the building and their occupancy of it, and that he did not feel influenced by that relationship. So I want to put that on the record. Similarly, the Township Legal Counsel, they recognized that he was a member of this board, and they did not feel that that influenced their decision to locate there. So that is the undue influence. That said, there was clearly a financial benefit, at least to the entity, which I assume he.
Yeah, he sold it, which, you know, if you understand building values, it's based on your occupancy, which raises the value. So when he sold it to his Dennis who was Jason Foster, he sold it for a higher amount than he could have had he not had this lease. So there's a big financial gain for this individual getting a tenant in, you know.
So not just the lease payments, but it creates the
Hundreds of
value of a
thousands.
building is dependent on paying tenants. Okay, duly noted.
I also would say there's stuff in here that I think needs to be reviewed by someone other than us, but I do think there's things in here that it's like, Mike Myers stated that continues to lease space at 9090 Rogers Courts.
He doesn't own the
He
building.
doesn't own it
Doesn't
anymore.
own it.
He
Oh,
sold the
he
building.
did.
And that's Greg's point, is
Got
that
5 years ago.
it's not ongoing. So this is
Okay.
in the rearview mirror. It's not ongoing. In my opinion, it comes down to, at some point, disclosure should have been made. If I'm a building owner and I'm approaching our planner, who's now looking to establish an office, I believe I should disclose that to board members.
Yeah, and that lease rate at the time, that was pretty high for Caledonia. I can tell you that, from my business background in leasing. You know, so
When, this was, you said 5 years ago?
2021,
2021.
$10 a square foot for, you know, finished office space. You know, it wasn't a white box, it was finished office space, so they didn't do anything to it. It was, you know, it was around 7 or 8. You know, you could get as high as 9. But, you know, regardless, the point is, like Brian said, he didn't disclose it to us. He did have financial gain, and that part is a clear ethics violation. And I think there should be consequences. He's blamed past, oh, go ahead.
I think there's more issues in this one than any of the other ones we looked at personally. I just think should have been looked at, should have been, recused himself from sitting at a meeting, you know, I think there's a lot of things on it that.
I mean, he's blamed past planning commission members of financial gain in their jobs, or using their position for
That's not what's at
undue.
question though here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Let's stick to the
Well,
facts
Yeah,
that are here.
I'm
it's not
pointing out
retaliatory,
Yeah.
it should be on the
He's
facts
used
before
this.
us.
And I would just like to say, I agree that there was a conflict that should have been disclosed. What you said, I agree with that. I do have, just maybe a bad taste in my mouth, I don't know what you wanna say, for going back 5 years about something that happened.
It's allowed.
Well, I hear you, and at the time, it was not substantiated, and I did not seek to substantiate it. However, so there it sits, unsubstantiated, I didn't do a finding of fact like I have with these more recent. I simply said it was unsubstantiated, and left it, good, bad, or indifferent. spreading the coulda, shoulda. I believe other board members were aware of the potential of this and could also, this, enforcement of this is on all of us. So if you were aware of it, or the potential aware of it, we all could have pursued it. I chose, knowing that it was in the past, chose not to pursue, or to substantiate it.
I asked you to do it 5 years ago.
We don't have a formal, did you give me a formal written complaint? I mean, that's my whole point. I hear stuff about
we're
Greg
back to
on a
the
daily
beginning.
basis and, you know.
This one I asked you and, you know, and I respected your decision at the time.
Yep.
And I'm glad you brought it up now,
Well,
because,
I-
you know, but, you know,
yeah. It's one of the reasons, I mean, there's many things that make my job awesome. That's not one of them, having decided
No.
to pursue when people
no.
think you were mean to somebody or, you know, used off-color language. I don't know what should be pursued, but this is a financial interest, so I guess, to me, in our conflict of interest policy, which is different than our ethics policy, it's even clearer that a financial interest creates a conflict of interest. So we can think that having spirited discussion is unethical or unkind or not becoming. Financial interest is pretty clear.
So we're convinced there's no current financial stuff going on.
It is not current,
Yeah.
According to
But
all
there's
available
nothing that-
information. He doesn't own the building.
No, I know that, but there was nothing that was written into the lease that we know that there's nothing.
He could be
going on.
receiving payments from the sale of the building still,
Correct.
which is
Yeah,
a
that's-
ripple benefit of having a market rate tenant in there.
It increased the value of the building,
So
so he
It's
is
still-
still getting a financial gain.
it's still financial interest or financial benefit. So disclosure should have been made, formal disclosure should have been made. And was not. And then we could have decided, I mean, we can't, well, certainly whether he should have recused himself from any matters involving his tenant, that's a whole nother discussion. But we were not given that opportunity.
Can I chime in for a moment?
Sure.
So, we as a board, I think, believe that Micah Myers is smart people, that's why they represent us. I think we can also believe that they're wise in how they seek property. So, the reason I'm bringing this up is I just want to make sure that we believe that at the time in 2021, it was roughly market rate. It wasn't like a above market rate lease as a benefit to the board member because of the relationship. Is that safe to assume?
It wasn't,
I know what market rate was here. I don't think they paid too much, but they paid a little heavy.
It's also property on M37, which
Yeah,
is good.
there was other buildings for lease at the same time,
Yeah.
you know.
it was a financial benefit, whether it's a dime or a dollar, there's a financial benefit. And I don't think we need to get into whether it was, unless it was extraordinary, then we can get into it. But
Well,
I
that's
don't
why I'm
be-
saying roughly. I
yeah,
mean, if
I don't
it's,
believe it was
if it's
extraordinary.
50%
It was-
more than
No,
market
no.
rate, I have a
It was
concern.
ordinary financial
If it's-
benefit.
It's within 10-15%.
Okay, good. I just wanted to have that, and I guess overall, you know, like others have said, this bothers me. I don't know that there's a lot of teeth to what we can do to the treasurer here, but I suggest that we suggest to him a training at MTA with ethics and conflict of interest to better inform his future decisions and protect the township from liability. As a treasurer, he's got substantial influence on how we spend funds and invest, and it just gives me concern. But there's no teeth because it doesn't exist in the policy.
Well, true.
We can censor him, correct?
Sure. Yes.
We can remove him from committee assignments.
Yes. Sure.
We can limit his office hours.
We can probably do all of that. We cannot we can't do things that create an obstruction to him doing his statutory duties.
Correct,
So,
correct. but does that mean,
I think that's open to interpretation though.
Right.
You know,
but, there's, I look at this and I don't think we should be rewarding him for having influence on, committee assignments. I think I would recommend we remove whoever's in charge of that, remove him from his committee assignments. So there's no undue influence on, personnel or utilities. I think there should be a public censure on this, especially given all the grief he's given multiple people over the years about different things. Without findings, a lot of it's just his opinion.
I guess here's where I know I'm on solid footing. One, a statement that disclosure should have been made. We've talked earlier about the importance of appearances. And this goes beyond appearance to a financial benefit. So it's just not, hey, you're making us look bad. People are wondering why, what's going on there. You had a financial benefit that wasn't disclosed. I guess that in and of itself is a perceptual issue too, for any of us.
Just not sure, like thinking about it, like.
I would say,
How
comma,
deep you go in
therefore,
that.
comma,
Yeah.
I understand the hypocrisy of an individual who is prone to complaints on others, but I want to make sure it's only on the merits of this case.
The merits are,
That it's
you
not,
took a financial gain,
it
and
is
there needs to
different.
be consequences.
And I agree with that, I just don't know what the consequences should be for it. I don't have a good feeling on that.
My recommendation would be is we remove him from committee assignments and a public censure. I think that will benefit our manager and our current, and our future manager also.
And there is something, it is, he was the township, the highest administrative official of the
Correct.
township at the time as well. So it's different than someone ordered more milk from you or, called you up to list their grandma's house because they knew you from, indirect. This was, at the time, he was the township administrator / manager. So it does. So technically, we have standards that apply to employees. This isn't just a board. I'm just processing this. So this potential is a matter not just of board member ethics and conflict of interest. This was a township employee.
Who's getting a
A
financial
highest
gain from a
administrative
vendor.
official who then approached a vendor to enter into a financial agreement. That's more serious than a conversation in the parking lot. From two disagreeing parties.
There was one comment, I'm not locating right now, glancing at, there was one comment that bothered me in the sense that, well, it was common knowledge that the boards knew about it because there was a sign on my building, about disclosing it, and it was like, I didn't like that tone.
Little flippant.
Yeah, that's,
Well,
but again, that's just,
It
that's it,
could
period.
be perceived as flippant. It could also be like, it was open knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, my name's on the side of the building next to theirs, so.
That would make Dale have to look that way every time he drives, or Joni or Brian or Tim,
And to know that just because his name was on the front of the building, that it was also on the deed, I'm sure that everyone in the community or even board even necessarily was aware of that, or wasn't.
Cause it started with Baker, it was Baker Robinson, so it
Okay.
wasn't something if you pulled up, you know, property owner, it won't say his name first.
Further understanding what censure is after some quick research and also the reminder that he was the township administrator at the time, I'm more comfortable with what trustee Zoller's been talking about.
So let's keep it not a formal motion yet, but for continued discussion. It's been suggested that our response should be, township policy would have required disclosure. Disclosure was not made, and our response is a censure, which is basically a formal finding that you violated township policy, and therefore the response is you're formally censured, which is a formal recognition of the violation and removal from committees, which, to be clear, would be personnel and utilities. That is on the, for
Just
discussion.
for
Yep.
clarification, then would someone need to be appointed to the utility committee in his
Subsequently,
absence, or- Just curious.
the gas tank is probably, didn't have to figure that out tonight, and that should
No,
be part of the
and I'm sure,
response,
but-
it should be,
Right,
you know,
yeah, just.
then we will
Yeah.
figure out staffing of the committee as well, it's the remaining members,
Mhm.
or if we appoint a replacement, we can figure that out.
Mhm.
One other point, to argue, you know, the opposite. When the matter was brought to my attention informally, the treasurer did write me an email. We said, a FOIA has been made seeking this information regarding a building I own. So disclosure was made to me. And frankly, that was the first I knew of when I said I didn't seek subsidization. It was provided then to me.
Well, I think that's meaningful, quite honestly. I mean, I look at that, it's like, that's not something that's like, oh, that doesn't matter. I mean, you're the supervisor, you know?
And that is when I said, this isn't current, but I probably should have said, gee, Dick, that's something, because you would administer, I guess then I come back to, thanks, you were still administrator at the time. So,
Yeah.
so it was 2 years ago, rather than 5 years ago when it occurred. The matter came to my attention via a Freedom of Information Act request, seeking, I think, by a citizen to substantiate it. And Dick said, can you believe this? I think they're coming after me. What benefit would have been to me? They just got a nice building, and so on.
Big benefit.
And you did not know anything about him doing that prior?
I said 5 years, it might have been 2. It would coincide around that same time of that FOIA
Okay.
request.
Okay.
I didn't have substantiation of anything. Frankly, it was his disclosure was probably the most damning up to that point. I mean, there was whispers and rumors and discussions and, you know, but no formal complaints, no formal substantiation. And then what is this FOIA about? Are they talking about my lease? And that was the first, like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that absolves him from not disclosing it years before.
So should at that time, it should have triggered, here we are tonight, and probably. So, we can do
Yours is on the next meeting.
So,
I won't be here.
Next meeting, we're gonna address Brian.
Kidding.
No,
I think that's a side statement, but yeah, I do think it's one that, yeah, probably should have triggered something.
so I would say it's not, I guess, addressing the timeliness. Had I forwarded the information at the time, formalize the information at the time, I believe the response would be similar.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
The administrator should have been disclosed, and frankly, it might have been
Yep.
there's a financial interest. So I'm more comfortable with that, because I want to own my own
Yep.
part. So it simply was a delay of hopefully a similar outcome in conclusion.
Okay.
You got it.
So based on board discussion and what I believe is an emerging consensus, we have reviewed this matter, and the finding was that a disclosure of the lease arrangement between the township administrator, treasurer, and township legal counsel, disclosure should have been made, period. It's been found that a financial benefit was received, because a financial benefit was involved and received, period. In response, the board is recognizing this lack of disclosure as a reason for formal censure and removal from the township utility and personnel committees. Is that forever? Is that for 1 year?
Well, I'd say for the time being.
For the current
Yeah,
elected
current.
term.
Current term.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's good.
okay. Madam Clerk, do you believe you've captured the relevant?
I think
You want some more time? Another pen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's
it's good.
former censure, disclosure should have been made. What it was, kind of. I'm just making sure.
He didn't disclose it to us
My
in
fellow
2021.
officer
Yeah, I think.
should have been made, what it was made to me. I just.
You said it wasn't made to
Checking
you
it from all
until
angles.
2024.
But your job is to supervise the township and not also make sure that every single conflict for every person that works here is constantly, like, you've got other things to worry about. That should be on each individual. So I think it's kind of you to acknowledge that you had an inkling, but you're also doing 110 other things.
All right.
Would it be better to say that disclosure should have been made in a timely fashion? Or
At the time of the lease.
Formal disclosure to the board is what's required.
okay.
Not are they talking about my lease email? Curious, George,
No.
all right.
So we still have not included a time frame in it. Do you not want to include a
Just
time
say
frame?
you do the,
To the remainder of
The
this
remainder
term,
of
which
your
would be
term.
No, I'm saying disclosure should have been made to the Board of Trustees
at the time of the.
at the time of the lease. Okay.
Yes.
I would say at the time of negotiation.
Well,
before
yeah.
it's even
Yeah.
signed.
You shouldn't approach someone.
I'm
Right.
considering doing this, and
Yeah.
it's a potential conflict.
Any concerns?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a building owner.
Okay. Got it.
Okay,
So that is your motion, Supervisor Harrison.
it is.
support.
All right. Do you want to read it back, or are you just going to make sure it's captured in the minutes and
Motion.
we can approve the minutes?
No, I'll say it.
Okay.
We reviewed the matter and the Board of Trustees reviewed the matter regarding the Township Administrator and Treasurer and Micah Myers. Disclosure should have been made to the Board of Trustees at the time of negotiations because a financial benefit was received. Formal censure, removal of, I'll
Yeah.
add in the
In
extra words.
response,
Yeah, in response, formal censure, removal of utilities and personnel committee for the current term.
All right, then
But I'll add in the extra.
administrative question, is a formal censure like, is this it? Is that just, it now exists, or is that like a letter that goes in your file, or I don't even know what
I would assume
that
because it
means.
will be part of the minutes.
Okay, so
that it would
this
be-
is it.
This is formal.
You've now been formally censured. Thank you very much. All right, that is the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. All right, 10G, a motion to approve release of the draft Caledonia Township Parks and Vision Plan. I'd make that motion.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
10H, a motion to consider approve the office closing dates for the 4th of July
Support.
holiday. Well,
Hang on a minute.
Support.
I always say, if
Just
you want something approved, put it at the end of a long agenda.
I'm
so-
sorry, can we please go back,
Yep.
just one quick second, to who made the motion on G?
Harrison.
Harrison, supported by
Okay.
Zoller, to
Thank
approve
you.
the release of our Parks and Trails Vision Plan to the
Thank
public.
you. Thank you.
All right. And 10H, let's at least cover this so that the community will know.
Make the motion.
Here.
It falls on a,
Here.
it falls, the 4th of July falls on a Saturday. Yeah, just read the motion because it's very
Yeah, I'll make
long.
the motion that, our office is closed for the, 4th of July holiday, which is Saturday the 4th, the 6th on Sunday, and, the 7th on Monday.
Oh, they're gonna
Wait.
reopen on the, okay, all right. Here, I'll make a motion that we
don't
close.
see-
I gotta put my glasses
We
back
close
on.
close at noon on the 2nd, we reopen at 8 o'clock on the 6th.
That's what I was saying.
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
That is
Support.
All right. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
All right. Are you a no vote?
I
Or
don't
you're
know
just
what I'm
slap happy?
doing. No.
Okay.
Stop.
All right, all right.
Okay,
did
can I
say
have
no.
that
I
memo
did,
back?
yes.
Can I, no, that memo.
think you were a
I
yes
just
and a
gave
no.
you.
I was a yes, no.
Thank you.
Public comment. Does anyone wish to address the board?
I hope.
Board comment.
Board comment. Dale?
Have a wonderful Memorial Day, everybody.
At the planning commission meeting on Monday, we did extend the Cherry Valley Resources gravel pit, mining permit for 5 more years. I honestly can't remember if that comes to the board or if it's just a planning commission thing, but if it comes to the board, it'll be here soon.
All right. Thank you for hanging the flags on the bridges. I think it really sets a great tone for our community. So thank you for that, and I encourage everyone to take some time over Memorial Day to recognize the service and sacrifice. Madam Clerk?
Yeah, just want to say that our maintenance team and our sexton and his team are working very hard to get everything in shipshape for the cemeteries. And there have been a couple of issues, but they are working on it. So if anyone calls to complain, we're on it.
I'll set motion to adjourn.
Support?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.